There they are, the Choir Boys. No, not the Choir Boys. Choir Boys, in fact. They're a band like Eagles and Models. They don't have a the.
Don't they?
No. But,
we'll get confirmation for that very shortly.
Yeah, absolutely we will, because a coincidence again. We play Choir Boys, and the man himself pops up. Mark Gable, good morning to you.
Good morning to you too. How's it going?
It's going all right. Well, let's settle the debate. It is Choir Boys, is it not? Not the Choir Boys.
It is Choir Boys. What I'd like to point out is that I was just listening to that song a minute.
Have you heard it before?
Yeah. I think it could have been a hit. This thing is what I'm privy to, because I managed to get the multi-track before. And if you don't know what multi-track is, it's tape recording before all our other stuff went disastrously old. I managed to get Run to Paradise multi-track, and at the end of that vocal, you hear me go, "Oh, bloody amazing!" You finish singing it.
Just to divert momentarily, one of the great recordings, and we're going back to even before I was born, not before Rob was born, of course, late 50s. And Buddy Holly does a version of True Love Ways. And you can now get a version of it which includes the intro. And he walks in and goes, "Pitch, Ernie." And you hear ding, 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 ding. And there's a moment's silence, and then just you. And it's just sublime. It is undoubtedly, in my mind, the finest recording of the 1950s. And it's just beautiful. You have a listen to it at some stage.
Well, it's oddly enough, I've been in. What's the bloody studio called where it was recorded? Sunset Sounds. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sun Studios.
Sun Studio. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's right. And I stood in the spot where he did his demo.
Right.
But then again, that was the 50s.
Mark, I'm getting old. I may have asked you this question the last time we had you on, but I'm going to ask it again. The choice of the name. Now, Choir Boys has a connotation to it. At the time, was that connotation about, were you taking the P155, or was there some other reason why you chose that?
Well, it had nothing to do with the Catholic Church, and Cardinal Pell or anything like that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
It's... even though I did see a picture of him wearing a Choir Boys T-shirt with AI, at the time there was the church, there was the angels and the saints, right? And I went, you got to have the Choir Boys, right?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
And that's where it came from, Yeah. Rather than, the Sex Pistols were around at the same time, ish. And of course, we had in Australia the Celibate Rifles in an answer to that.
Yeah, that's right. I had never picked that up. Yeah, well done.
Yes.
Yeah, well, gee, this is informative this morning, isn't it?
Well, I'm glad I asked that question now. You took me to places I wasn't expecting, but that's a perfectly legitimate and sensible answer.
Yes, well, if you've got any questions about mathematics, science or politics, this is your time to get the accurate, honest truth.
Yeah, well, I used to teach mathematics many years ago, and one of the great challenges of life is explaining the concept of the square root of -1. Have a crack at that.
0.
No, it's in fact the letter I, because it's indeterminate.
Oh, my goodness.
You cannot multiply two numbers together to get -1. Anyway, we digress.
Mark, I will get into the politics of the music industry. When you started off, you would sell a record, and I'd go and buy a single, and it might have cost me $3.50, and there'd be a fair chance that some of that would filter its way back into your bank account. These days, it's a different world. Did you have control of your destiny back that way financially, or were you in the stage where you really just went out and played and had fun, and then they give you a handful of cash at the end and you thought, that's okay? How did it work?
How it worked was that I was told in the early 80s by George Young of Vander and Young, and George Young, of course, is Angus and Malcolm Young's from AC/DC's brother, right?
And lead singer of Flash and the Pan.
Flash in the Pan, and he was also, producer and all the rest of it, and in the Easy Beats. Well, what he said to me is, "Mark," and I'll do my terrible Scottish accent, and I go, "Yes, George, I don't know whether I said that, but never let anybody touch your royalties, Mark." "Oh, no, never do that." I go, "Okay," and I never did, So, however, there are a whole bunch of other people that did get their royalties touched, and one of them was James Floyd from Models.
Mm-hmm.
He never got any royalties until he passed away. And I spoke to his wife. She called me up, Sally Floyd, and said that, the contract is clear. We're actually getting royalties now, and that was 4 years after he passed. The same it was for Van Morrison with Brown Eyed Girl, because I only learnt this because I was over in Ireland in Belfast where my father was born, about 100 metres away from where Van Morrison was born. And then when I looked up the history, he and still has never been paid royalties for Brown Eyed Girl because he signed a stupid contract when he was a dumb, kid.
Yeah.
So it happens all the time, but I'm one of the lucky ones. So I made sure I got royalties straight off the bat.
We had an interesting start to the show today where Steve Woods on our first segment mentioned Colonel Parker and Elvis Presley, and Colonel Parker may have been the very first one who, there might have been others, but there seemed to be some really ordinary people who got into the music industry and manipulated, allegedly, a lot of very talented people out of what was surely their rightful reward.
Yeah, well, primarily because, you're saying ordinary people, musicians don't know or didn't know or still don't know the understanding of the mechanics of business, and how it operates and financial matters. And I mean, I was having a chat with Leo Sayer. You remember him?
Yeah, we do. Love Leo.
Yeah. We wouldn't mind having a chat to him if you know him well.
He'd be good, but, he was saying that, back in the day, he was like, when he had some manager, I've forgotten who it was, and he goes, I was just looking at my bank account, right, and it just, every time I'd look at it, it had a lot of zeros. I'm doing a bad Leo Sayer act. And I go, oh, yeah, okay, so what, like, this million, zero, zero, zero. He goes, yeah, and then it was only after the fact I discovered, like, I'd been ripped off about 20 million.
Yeah. If someone took 20 million off me, well, first of all, congratulations, and B, I reckon I'd notice.
Yeah, I'd reckon I'd notice too. The John Farnham doco, he was obviously very poorly managed in his early days, a bit naive. There's been lots of other cases, and I suppose Glenn Wheatley was the good story of him being sensible enough to see and taking the matter into his own hands. Did he sort of change it for everybody else?
I actually don't know whether he did really. I think it was, I think it was still a bad issue, and it's still a bad issue today with people that don't understand. Because look, the music industry, I don't know why they call it an industry. It's not an industry. It's a bunch of weirdos who fit into normal society. It's not regulated. It's not like the radio industry, where it's an organised situation, It never was, for the music industry. And so, as you say, like abnormal, or as I said, abnormal people existing in there that have no understanding of finances, except for agents, managers, and record companies and publishing companies who understand finances and would sign, would do terrible deals, and, all sorts of things would happen. And a lot of the managers would, rip people off. So, yeah, Glenn Wheatley was good with that. I think he, mortgaged his house or something to pay for John's album. And I think that after that happened, it made a big difference. But we did hear about it, yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that he might have got his money back.
Yeah, a few times over. I suppose the environment that you're in, though, is that you're talented, you love what you do, and you want the opportunity to do it. So the only way you can do it is under the circumstances that someone says you can do it. So here's this young fella, you want to play music, here's the contract, you do this or you don't do it. It's almost emotional blackmail, isn't it?
Yeah, yes,
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly, and it's like, the amount of agents that were managers, and at one point our agent was our manager, was our record company, was our publisher. Okay, so you're getting an idea.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, it's like there are certain things that went on that we all knew about and or we learned about, and you just dealt with it because you wanted to do it. Right?
Yeah. Mm.
That's the key with it back in those days. You're talking about kids who were like, you know, up-and-coming musicians. They wanted to do rock and roll and tune in the pubs and whatever. And I remember the first gig that I did with the first band I was in the 60s called Cannon in Mona Vale. And guess what our fee was?
Not much.
I would have thought a schnitzel and a beer.
$10.
Hey, good deal. It's better than a schnitzel and a beer. Yeah, it's a bit frightening, isn't it? There's still bands kicking around now that they can have what they want from the bar, and that's what they get paid.
Yeah, you know, and it's like it's tough. Mm. But however, without it, you know, we wouldn't have had these amazing songs, and like the Beatles, for instance. And they went through stuff. Oh, look, I don't know whether it's true, but God, what was their manager? Come on, give it to
Brian Epstein.
Brian Epstein, you know, he goes, I was just trying to publish a merchandise deal. It's great, you know. And I said, well, what is it? It's a 90-10 deal. I go, wow, that's fantastic. How does it work? He said, the merchandise company gets 90, you get 10.
Yeah.
It's true, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, of course, they were reportedly came to Australia for £500 each. Because they weren't successful when Ken Brodziak, is his name, signed them up. And when they didn't do Adelaide, and when Adelaide kicked up a stink, they said, yeah, right, we'll go to Adelaide. It was something like £5,000 to go to Adelaide because, you know, for one concert. But there you go. Hey, we should talk about you guys as well, because you guys have come to G-Town.
Sorry.
We're going to drag you off the northern beaches of Sydney and come to Geelong. I don't know whether that's necessarily a good decision, but never mind. Be that as it may. 3rd of May, you're coming to town.
Yeah, we are. And it's good up there, mate. You know, let's face it. I've had a long relationship with that whole area. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if I hadn't moved up to the Central Coast, you know, I would have gone up there, mate, you know, because it's beautiful up there. The people are beautiful. There's never any problems. You know, everybody's happy, you know, and they love one another and they cuddle. Not like Sydney, you know.
Yeah, and Rob and I are actually here holding hands.
A lot of love down here, Mark.
Yeah, that's it. So last time you guys were down here, and congratulations, by the way, you are officially now a friend of the show, because you've been on twice. And the fact that you did that little sound clip for us for our 200th show is very well appreciated, but that was kind of a friend of the show. Now you're a legit. Last time you were here, you played at the Ocean Grove Hotel, if I recall correctly. This is a bit more upmarket, the Geelong Arts Centre.
Yeah, you know, it's, well, you know, we have to become more upmarket, right? Because, you know, we want to be seen as more of an intelligent, emotionally balanced, you know, beautifully creative band.
And you chose to be on this program.
How's that working for you, Mark?
It's working great.
Good.
I'm finding that people are treating me with a lot more respect due to you guys.
And I guess that you're at the age that we're all at, Mark, respect is really all we can hope for.
Yeah. Yeah, because we ain't going to get much.
not much else available. But the reality is it is important, though, the fact that you've been able to maintain a leg in the industry for so long. I guess respect is an important part of it. And the thing I love with these conversations we have with your ilk is the way you just drop names into the conversation. You're clearly great mates and great admiration for each other's work, and there's plenty of room for everyone to operate in the pool that's available, and you're quite grateful for that. Yeah,
I am, you know, and it's like, and considering the show that we're doing, you know, Run the Paradise, Great Australian Rock and Roll Stories, it's about all the people that I've admired, you know, and primarily, you know, seen them on stage repeatedly, and then to actually, you know, get to know them as the years moved on, and then some of the things that they've either done or they've told me, and you know, it's an incredible history. So I'm actually, and I know a lot of people go, oh, it was great coming up in the 80s and the 70s and all the rest of it. But we're actually lucky, you know, I consider myself lucky to have grown up through that, you know, going to see Midnight Oil when Pete Garrett had hair and you know, all this kind of stuff. It was like, they were great times, and I don't think they're ever going to be repeated.
Mark, a thing that's very important for bands is a thing called stage presence. There was always a lot of energy displayed. Over the years, have you had to change your personal stage presence, or do you go to the gym 5 days a week to keep the 1970s stage present alive?
Well, I haven't been to the gym for a couple of months now, but I'm going to get back into it because I want to be able to wear G-strings again. What are you laughing for?
Sorry, no.
No, because Rob's going through exactly the same thing.
Yes, I'm...
Yeah.
Just we should put his trousers on.
Yeah, Rob would understand then that, you know, G-strings, toilet. Anyway, another story.
Yeah, that's the stage presence thing I was talking about. You've got an image to keep up, Mark.
Yeah, you know. But it's like, as you get on, your fitness isn't quite the same, but it's not just that. It's like the lunacy that you go through when you're young. You go, I can do this and I can do that. You know? And hence, you know, part of the reason I limp is because of, you know, having a soccer match with Deep Purple and being a raving lunatic. And all, you know, it's just like you get older and you go, yeah, I just want to sit back and have a cup of tea, but then you've got to get on stage and be a raving nutbar, you know?
Yeah, the adrenaline is an amazing thing. In the height of the performance, you're really running on something else. Has that always been with you?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I love it. You know, I know that there are some people in the music industry that don't like performing and don't even like doing their songs. And, you know, I love him, you know, and he's a brilliant songwriter. I've done some shows with him, Steve Kilby from the church, but and I can't use bad language on air. But we would do Unguarded Moment, you know, together, and he'd tell the audience, he'd go, I hate this bleeping song. And I would go in the microphone and go, I love this. F you. Right? Yeah. And then, you know, and so there's I just love it. I love the fact that people come along to participate. It's so much fun. They're there to enjoy themselves, and I respect that. And, you know, having seen so many bands over the years and, you know, over the decades, and some of them have just been, particularly most of the Australian bands that I've loved, great at entertaining and removing you from your world and taking you to another world, and that's what it's all about.
Well, I'm looking at the overview on the Geelong Arts Centre page, and it talks about the fact this is not a Choir Boys concert. This is a show a tribute show to other artists as well. Sure, there's some Choir Boys songs amongst it. Boys Will Be Boys, Never Gonna Die, Struggle Town, and maybe that song Run to Paradise. You're going to give that a run as well?
Oh, look, I don't know. It's like...
You're still learning the chords?
More popular.
Yeah. But Smoke on the Water, Never Can Tell Chuck Berry, A Jump in My Car, Are You Old Enough, Long Way to the Top, all those sort of songs are going to be there as well. And I get the sense that it's not just going to be you standing up singing and dancing and playing guitar. There'll be a bit of storytelling as well.
Oh, there's heaps of storytelling.
Yeah, and we're getting a sense that you might be okay at that, just from the work we're getting. And the other great thing, the photo of you and your mates on the website, if people would buy a ticket, you might be able to shout yourself a new pair of jeans that don't have holes in the knees of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sounding like a granddad now, aren't I? The show is on May the 3rd, which is a Saturday night, at 8 p.m. at the Geelong Arts Centre. Now, $70 gets you in and some change. That's bizarre, isn't it? $70, cheap at half the price. There is a VIP package. Now, the VIP package gives you an opportunity to meet Mark before the show. Now,
yes.
you know, we've had the good fortune to meet him telephonically, but if you want to meet him in the flesh, there is the VIP, which comes with a ticket, obviously, 20 people only. So if you want to do that, you better get in quick. We got Mark on a bit earlier than we normally do, normally a couple of weeks before the show, but this is 4 or 5 weeks, so that you can, in fact, if you want to get on the VIP experience, you can.
Yeah, and I will kiss you and cuddle you.
Will you? Is that a threat or a promise? And that's only $120. I mean, seriously, $120 to meet one of the icons of Australian music and have a show where he performs. I reckon that's pretty good value, Rob.
It is, and it leads me to my final question, going back to that previous segue about the adrenaline, Mark. During this week, I was reminded again, and I've done a little bit on a stage on a much smaller scale, but when you finish, the adrenaline is still pumping. At the age you are now, do you just want to sit in the corner by yourself when it's all done, or do you still like this engagement with your friends and now, of course, the audience?
Yeah, I like to, I don't like to have the kind of lunatic fun that I used to, but I like to have fun and chat to people, and if I can get my eyeball on a pizza, well, yeah.
Don't stand between him and the pizza.
Don't do that. No. I'll push you out of the way.
Pizza and a fine ale, or are you into maybe a Shiraz now?
I don't drink anymore.
Oh, don't you?
No, I don't drink anymore. Certainly don't drink any less.
Yeah.
There's a lady called Marsha, who you may be familiar with her work, who was at the same venue a little while ago, and she came out after the show and stood and literally met everyone. Her announcer kept on yelling out, "Don't panic, she will stay here till she meets everybody." I'm looking at the crowd. I reckon she got home Thursday morning. It was extraordinary. Mark, before we go, I do have a question from our station manager who has texted through, and he said, "Are you suggesting that radio's not full of weirdos and dodgy financial organisers?"
It used to be.
It used to.
But in the words of the great Neil Diamond, used to be's don't count anymore. They just lay on the floor till we sweep them away.
I just remember. I remember one day a famous radio station in Sydney going to dead air because the radio announcer went unconscious.
It's a bit insensitive to mention dead air because Rob couldn't get in the door this morning for 20 minutes. We had dead air, but let's not mention that on air. Okay, we won't talk about that on air.
We won't talk about it on air.
Mark Gable, it's always good fun having a chat to you, and we will try and get to the show if we can, but otherwise I'm up for a cold drink on a warm afternoon on the northern beaches of the Central Coast next time I'm up there.
Yeah, and a pizza.
And a pizza, of course.
Bring a pizza.
Good on you, Mark. Mark there. Mark Gable.
Thanks,
from
Mark.
Choir
All the
Boys.
best.
All the best, mate.